الذي أطرى كنيسة المسيح وأبهجها بأناشيد الحسنات الإيقاع الطريق عارفي محمد الدمشقي الكلية الحكمة زعيم ناظم التسابيح الذي كان مملوءا حكمة إلهية وعالمية. الله معكم. Today we are honored with the presence of Professor Maria Alexandru at our Faculty of Theology as visiting professor of church music. And Professor Alexandru will present for us now one of her studies as part of her teaching assignment to our students, and also offering this to all those who are interested, who follow us on Facebook. Professor Maria Alexandru, born in Bucharest, studied music education, musicology, Byzantine studies, and Latin in Bucharest, then Bonn and Copenhagen and Greece. She got scholarships from the Studienstiftung des Deutschen Volks and the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. Since 2002, she is teaching Byzantine music at the School of Music Studies of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and today as a professor. And between September 1, 2022 and August 31, 2025, she served as head of the department. She participated in more than 100 congresses and gave conferences and master classes in different countries, and wrote 5 books and more than 70 articles. She leads the study groups and ensemble Chrysoremon and Psaltira from the School of Music Studies of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, as well as the female Byzantine choir Saint Anicia of the Greek Society for Music Education. She is a member of the International Musicology Society and other musical associations, member of the editorial board of Monumenta Musici Byzantini, and of the e-journal series Musicolica Balkanica and Studies in the Music of the Christian East and Orient, as well as chair of the IMS study group for music of the Christian East and Orient. For her work, she got various distinctions. Professor Maria Alexandru, again, thank you for preparing this study for this evening, and the floor is yours.
So much. Dear Father Jacob and dear fathers, Father Romanos, Yes.
Just discuss what they told you appeal.
Yes. So, dear Father Jacob and dear Father Manos, dear fathers, αγαπημένα παιδιά, let me put it like this, dear colleagues, our beloved children, if I may, as I say in Greece, αγαπημένα παιδιά, I'm very, very moved to be here in this holy land. From where many important things were gifted to the entire world. I had a big joy to be yesterday in Byblos and to see the port from which your ships of your ancestors went to the islands of Greece and brought the Phoenicia grammata, the letters, to the Greeks, which then developed the alphabet, and from there it traveled around the world. I was really so excited only by the idea that I will fly to Beirut. It was such a beautiful thought for me to come to the place where Saint Romanos the Melodist was a deacon. So I'm so grateful to God and to all of you for making possible this visit of me here. I'm very excited about your wonderful students with which we had the blessing to work together some days. And this is just the continuation of our classes. So please feel free to interrupt, to ask questions, and so on. So it's like an open class. So our title, is it fine if I speak in English or would you prefer in Greek? What shall I do? English is better. So anyhow, the PowerPoint is mostly in Greek, so I think you can follow up. We'll try to trace some parts from Saint Romanos the Melodist to Saint John of Damascus and to Saint John Koukouzelis, three of the most important exponents of psaltic art. So we go to a very brief introduction now. Look at this. This is an attempt to show the development of psaltic art during the centuries, just starting with a double root in the ancient world, both in the world of the Old Testament and the regions around it, and the Hellenistic world, which gives us the modal system and many other things. And then we might have a first blossom in the Justinian era with Saint Romanos the Melodist, and then again another one in the type of the iconoclasm with Saint John of Damascus. The reason why this line is dotted is because we don't have many musical documents. They are very scattered. But from the 10th century on, we start with the codices of Byzantine chant, so we can really trace a very impressive evolution from the old style to the peak, to the zenith of psaltic art, which is reached with Saint John Koukouzelis. And then we go on in an uninterrupted tradition with some fallings and some risings until today. So it might be said that maybe Byzantine chant has the most longevous musical written tradition in the music history, in the sense that it is uninterrupted and it has very slow changes and always organic changes. So we have around 10,000 musical manuscripts. Yes, it's a huge heritage. And in fact, studying today some musical pieces and then going back to the new method with the three teachers is like just being here on the surface of an immense iceberg, which has a very deep tradition, which goes back as far as we can follow the origin tradition. And of course, it goes much deeper back in the old way. And you will be convinced by this, I think. In 2019, Byzantine chant was written in the list of UNESCO as a part of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. And the countries which cultivate and which had the big blessing to have this music tradition implicitly want to promote it and to teach it and to give it over to the next generation. Look at this also. It was the same day when you can see here for the Byzantine music, King David. And in the same day, also, this beautiful habit of bringing the shepherds down and up with transhumantia, with the different epochs, was recognized. And it's so beautiful because King David himself was at the beginning a shepherd. So maybe it's not by chance. When approaching Byzantine chant, for sure we need to do it in an interdisciplinary way and also in an inter-artistic way, because we can see many points of coming together of the hymnographic word with the music, of course, but also with the painted word, as they say, zographikos logos, and with many other sciences, just to mention physics, acoustics, medicine, and many, many others. So you can see it here. Since we are going to sing together, if you want, I would invite you to make warming up exercise. So I would like our students to come as far as they want, and we are going to sing for you, but please come and participate. Ελάτε, παιδιά. So we're going to look at the famous composed wheel of Saint John Koukouzelis. This week, please could you also switch to the PowerPoint? Because we need the PowerPoint now. We know that it's by Saint John Koukouzelis because it's written Ioannou Maístoros του Koukouzelis. We are going to start here with the small wheels and then go with these ones. And please just feel free to, it's like a lesson where everybody is invited to participate. We will use also canonati. It's called psalterion in Byzantine times. And in many manuscripts, you can see it in the arms of the prophet David. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so it's a very traditional instrument, and there are even depictions of musical scales with the shape of the canon. So let's try to sing. We are going to sing on this. Μπορείτε να βάλετε παρακαλώ. Okay, so we start from here. Dorios, Hippodorios, the ancient Greek names of the modes. So it goes like that, like the clock. And then we have phrygios, hypophrygios from here. So here we have to be very careful with the intonation because we have. So once more. And then we have Lydios, Hippolydios, Anes. Oh. And then Aya, Mixolydios, Hypomixolydios from here, coming. Oh. Very nice. Yeah. And then we go on to see what we are doing with these concentric wheels. So please join in singing. Why not? It's just the joy of being together and of sharing some wonderful things of our common tradition. So we are going to sing the very same things, but in a more intricate way. We start here is protos, defteros, tritos, tetatos, again protos. And here now we have to be very careful to show
in the descending way, the apostrophe, and when rising, the oliga. So we are starting like the clock, and then we are coming back. Once arrived here, we are coming back over through the way, and you will see that it's a perfect exercise. But what about the words? Ananes, neanes, nana, what is this? It is nonsense syllables. What is this? In fact, this is a prayer, because as theoreticians inform us, ananes comes from anax anes, anax aphes. So it means king or emperor, forgive. Ne, anes, yes, indeed, please forgive. Ana, oh Lord. Ah, yeah. So it's a prayer. And as Professor Nathaniel Evans, the voice teacher, observed, in fact, it's a very powerful triplet. We have the prayer, we have the learning of the modes, and we have voice building in a very high level. When he saw this, he was almost ecstatic. He said it's one of the most powerful voice exercises I've ever seen. So it's very, very useful. So let's try to do it. Is it too high for you? No. Yes? No. No, it's good to make some voice building. I mean, to go also a bit higher. So please, feel free to join. We are starting here. Come. Oh, no. No. Oh, no. Yeah. Wonderful. And now backwards. Very nice. So this is one way of reading it. There is also another way of reading each of the signs with small hemata. I will just show this to you so that you can get an idea about the vocal exercises they were doing in older times. So instead of singing, we can do it like this. And all the way around. So these are fantastic exercises also for the voice, for the agility and elasticity of the vocal folds. And really they needed this for the period of callophonia, where we have most melismatic melodies of long duration. You have to have a very well educated voice. So very nice. We are on the way of learning it, aren't we? Yes. It's very interesting. Here you can see the way they organize dances in Romania. It's so astonishing. It has the same shape like the trohos. It's like the very same shape. And then, of course, this circling, moving, which goes all through the universe, from the bees to the galaxies. It's something very, very beautiful and very deep. And of course, ο χορός των αγγέλων. It is this circle moving. So now we are going to, thank you so much. You can have a seat for a moment. Yes, but bring the chairs closer, please. Yes. Now we are going to see how these three personalities, Saint Romanos the Melodist and Saint John of Damascus and Saint John Koukouzelis, are bound together. They are bound together in a very profound way, since all the three of them had a very strong devotion to the Holy Virgin. So we can take this as a point of departure to see how they praised the Most Holy Theotokos in their works. We begin with Saint Romanos the Melodist. We had a big joy to read with the master students from this wonderful manuscript, Vaticanus Grecus 1613, one of the most important heritages of Byzantine culture. It was commanded by Vasilios II from the Macedonian dynasty. And here we can read that in Enmiade των νυχτών, remember, dear students, maybe you will help to read it, Enmiade των νυχτών, where it is here. Enmiade των νυχτών, κοιμωμένο αυτό, εφάνη καθ' ύπνος η υπεραγία Θεοτόκος. When he was sleeping, he saw in his dream the Most Holy Theotokos, and she gave him to eat in a symbolic way, a piece, not of paper at that time, of course. It must have been of parchment or even of papyrus, more probably. And he stood up and he went on the ambo and he sang I Parthenos Simeron, the famous conduction of Christmas. So we are very eager to see what is the oldest form of I Parthenos Simeron we could access today. Saint Romanos the Melodist was the poeta vere Christianus, the Princeps Melodorum. He was a great poet of the Justinian period, but in that time we did not have a musical notation, or at least we did not discover it until now. So we have to look in later manuscripts, and here you see one from the Holy Mountain. It's from the end of the 14th century. And we have I Parthenos Simeron at this point. So what we can do is just to sing what is written there without being, of course, certain that we are fully rendering the old way the manuscript shows it, because in the most cases, the notation, the old notation is stenographic. So we have an oral tradition which we try to reconstruct as far as we can, but without being ever sure to reach it as it was. So let's try to sing it. If you want, you can join in it. And if you can also put isokratima if you want. Now towards the actual melody.
Solo
Thank you very much for this. At the end, we can skip from harmony because it's very interesting as a model structure. In fact, I think that then everybody is reminded of what we are seeing today as a part-time of similarity, which resembles very much. And it is written in some manuscripts equals tritos, third mode, some others equals plaios to proto, again some others in plaios to tetarto. So in which mode is this piece? There was also even a conference paper on this. It seems that this piece is so old that when trying to describe it with the octomodal system, it did not fit really in any of the scales you are accustomed to. There was also one of the students, what was it? Yes, what? He had a beautiful idea. Would you like to say it? Because I think, yes, should I say it?
Yeah.
So what remark, maybe it was so amazing that it was a melody, that it sort of melody was outside of that which you could describe with the modes.
Turn this on and put that on.
Okay, so you can still hear me? Yes, okay. So he had the idea that maybe it was by purpose that it was written in this way, because according to the Synaxarion, you see, it is inspired by the Holy Mother of God. This melody has been kept, it seemed, almost unchanged through the centuries. And I would ask Elias and the wonderful students to sing the version we used to have today, which is based on Petros Peloponnesius, who on his turn just wrote down what he heard in his period in the 18th century. Oh, you can keep the same tone, maybe.
So you could see it's the same melody, almost unchanged, very, very tiny differences on the level of the surface only. So this might be a very old melody. Maybe we can say that it's the original melody, because who would dare to change a melody which is inspired by the most holy Theotokos? I mean, it has all the premises to be transmitted through the centuries in a very, very faithful way. Unfortunately, we cannot approach some other music of Saint Romanos the Melodist, at least as far as we can know today. The same period also of Saint Romanos is connected to the Akathistos hymn, and it was Cyril Mango writing a very beautiful article, Constantinopoulos Theotokoupolis. He tried to find out which churches were devoted to the Holy Virgin in the 6th century in order to find out how old this dedication is. In fact, he concludes that from the beginning, the city must have been devoted to the Most Holy Virgin. And this year, as you know, we have 14 centuries, 1,400 years since the very first mention of the Akathistos. It was the year 626 when the hymn was sung in all-night vigil, so it must have existed at that time, of course. The most probable is that Saint Romanos the Melodist was the author of this most wonderful hymn. Some scholars say that it's the most beautiful Christian hymn ever written. It's so rich in expression and in sense and so on. Here you can see Saint Romanos, and Professor de Torakis also tried to think about having a authorship by the two brothers, Saint John of Damascus and Saint Cosmas the Melodist, but this comes against the Synaxarion, so it does not work. So I think it is Saint Romanos the Melodist, and I think Father Bishop, you said this about the study, that it's almost proven that it was Saint Romanos the Melodist. Here you see also the famous icons Panagia Nikopios, the one connected to the victories in Constantinople. It's found today in San Marco, in the cathedral, or in the museum. This was the icon with which the Romans, the Christian Romans, went into battle. It was on a chariot, and firstly, it was Holy Theotokos going in the battle, and when coming victorious back through the Golden Gate, she was the first to enter. Here you can see also these scenes where we have first the icon and then the emperor coming into the city. And this goes on, it's very strong in Greek culture. This is an old phone card. When I came to Greece, I found this and I was deeply impressed how they put the tongues together with Theotokos. It's something very, very deep in the piety of Greek people. Here you can see how Theotokos appeared during the Second World War. And of course, you know, the Akathistos theme inspiring also icon painters and so on. It's really a wonder of the Greek language. It has been translated in many, many languages of the world, but still the original ancient Greek is the most wonderful, also like a celebration of the language, with so many, almost all the repertoire of rhetorical devices used, and being with the most deep theological sense encapsulated there. Here you can see something which is known as the oldest writing down of the Ikos, Angelos Protostatis. It is in adiastematic Palo-Byzantine notation of the Hagiopolite type. And here you see from the Condacarium ashburnhamense, an old form of the Ipermacho, very melismatic and quite similar to what we sing today as Melos Archeon. We have, of course, the Ipermacho as sung today. We already heard it before, but maybe you would like to sing it in Arabic. I would be very happy to hear the Ipermacho as you sing it now in Arab. So you can sing it in Arab. In Arab. From generation to generation, this wonderful hymn. This was the Thanksgiving hymn written by Sergius the Patriarch after the victory over the Avars and the Perses in 626. And something which is very interesting is to notice that in the Greek language, the subject is Constantinople itself. It's the city of Constantinople, which says «Αναγράφωση η πόλη σου Θεοτόκιε τα νικητήρια». And I read in some beautiful study about this, that this is terminology of military, because they had a big marble column in Constantinople where they were putting the names of the victorious emperors. And now it's the city itself which writes in that victorious, in that list of the victorious, the glorious emperors, Theotokos. So it is wonderful. In other languages, it has been translated as your servants, or even your servant, as I heard it's in Arab. So, but in Greek, it is this wonderful thing. And it's so impressive. I told to the students, when I came to Greece some 25 years ago and going to the Hieretismi in St. Demetrios Cathedral in Thessaloniki, they were singing the canon. And when they gave Apíchima Neaye, the Ipermacho, the entire congregation stood up, and it was terrible feeling. This is this historical, remembrance and feeling and presence of Holy Theotokos in the life of of Greece and of course of all the Orthodox people, but they have it. Yes, please. Yeah. Since, yes. So it is ethnikos thriskeftikos hymnos, yes. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, through century. Great, so it is full of history and is full of religious feeling, of course, and life. And again, after 626, we have historical documents saying about the delivery of deliverance, of the city in different war situations. So let's say also two things about Saint John of Damascus. Saint John of Damascus was also he had a deep devotion for the Holy Mother of God. You know, the famous icon Tricherusa, Panagia Tricherusa, from his life where his hand was cut, and Panagia did heal him. Saint John of Damascus is very important for us since he's the holy man who made the first systematization of the 8 modes, octoichos. It has been systematized by Saint John of Damascus. Maybe, however, you are curious to see what happens with the notation in the meantime. So let me make a small excursus to show you some written documents and to see what happens in the time of Saint John of Damascus and which kind of notation maybe or beginnings of notation we have in that time. What you see here is the famous papyrus Oxyrhynchos 1786, the oldest written document of Christian music from the second half of the 3rd century. Is the time of Saint Anthony the Great. So in this time we have also, but it remains unique. It is with ancient Greek notation. The text is in the Dorian dialect, and it's a hymn for the Holy Trinity. Many attempts have been done to restore it and to sing it also. Maybe another time we can see it. What you see here is another papyrus. It's from the Berolinenses papyri. It is dated to the 8th century or later, and it contains one of the oldest indications of modes. You can see here Plaios του Δευτέρου. And here we have some hook-shaped signs. If we look at the diplomatic transcription made by Panayotas Arischouli, who studied in situ this in the Museum of Berlin, this papyri, you can see it's these signs, hook-shaped. So this would fit with the time of Saint John of Damascus, who is connected in Greek bibliography with Ankhistroidis Semiographia, hook-shaped signs. But unfortunately, it's the unique document we have with this kind of notation. We have no more, or at least we have not found it or seen it yet. And then we have the notation of Hermopolis, also close to the time of Saint John of Damascus, or a bit later, like a manuscript. It's in the collection of the Coptic papyri at Manchester, in Manchester, in John Ryland's library. This is Episi Cheri και Χαριτωμένη. It's the Megalinarion for the Most Holy Theotokos, and it's a hymn by Saint John of Damascus. And you can see the notation is mainly strokes, like this, from 1 to 7, and some few other musical neumes. So this also comes into account. You see that we are in the zone of Egypt now. It is very important. It's a cradle of Christian culture, Egypt. And then we have the famous palimpsest of Princeton Library, which it's one of the earliest copies of the Hymnologion, Jerusalem Hymnologion. And here you can see the word Dio, like a phrase by itself with a tone, and this tone is interpreted by Johann Rosted like one of the earliest documents of musical writing, because in fact, look at this, in later manuscripts the Dio has really a melism, which is called thematismos. We have the theta notation. Theta notation uses the letter theta, the beginning of the word thema or thematismos, which means melisma. And it shows just the places where to put melisms. All these notations we saw now are highly stenographic, of course, and they go with a very strong oral tradition. Here you can see manuscripts of your tradition in Syriac from the Syro-Melkite tradition, also with strokes. And then also, sorry? Yes, the students told me that we have some Arabic here. It's like the rubrics or indications of liturgical use, yes. So what is interesting, and it was Heinrich Hussmann, a very important musicologist from Göttingen in the last century, and also Jürgen Rosted, who studied with a lot of passion these manuscripts. And you see something happens here and something happens here, but what exactly we do not know. But you see in this period we have highly stenographic notations. This is places like similar to the O, the Is, where we have melismatic textures. And then we have some very interesting use of the prosodical signs to put up something like very early systems of notation. You look at this word icona has 3 accents, perispomeni, oxia, perispomeni. So here something with the music seems to go on. This kind of notation has been observed also in some very important liturgical source, the Codex Liturgicus Sinaiticus, now kept in St. Petersburg, which also uses multiple accents on the same word. For instance, here you can see these skilefsas, it's oxia and varia. So when we see these multiple accents and even double strokes or triple or quadruple strokes, then we know that it is some sort of music notation. I will show you this. Look again the dio, just by itself, a musical phrase. These are musical dots. It's not, they demark a musical phrase. And then this triplet with here, always with some other numation. This is Sinaitic notation, as we propose to call it, because it's found mainly in manuscripts from that region. So we are in the Middle East. I mean, we are in this Aegis Anatolie with this first attempts. And look at this. This is really highly interesting. Besides the Byzantine prosodical system we all know from Polytonikos system or from the ancient texts, there is an older one which is called Alexandrinian, from the Library of Alexandria, from the great philologists from the Alexandrinian library. And they had, this was the older prosodical system. And it worked like this. It showed not the accentuated, but the unaccentuated syllables mainly. And kalosanir, it has varia, but it has not oxia. It prepares you for the accent. Or look at this, emon pareno, Philis Stephanon, Ephenges, but look at this, Theodoros. Each syllable carries an accent. So prepare, accentuate, slowly, slowly. So this seems to be the point of birth of Byzantine notation, because it's the very same logic to have on the different syllables some accents. So it seems that the Alexandrinian prosodical system is one of the generative factors of Byzantine notation. We know also that hieronomy was very important, the gestures of the conductors. And Father Romanos, the bishop, told me also that some signs have some similitude with Arab letters, and yes. So this should be investigated in depth, because everybody is very interested to know how Byzantine notation has been born. But you see, it's from the Greek language, we have also the birth of the Greek, of the pneumatic notation, which then passed to so many countries. You know, in fact, today, Byzantine music is translated not only in the very common for us, for your languages like English and French and German, but also in Finnish, even in Tatar language, in Koreatic language. It went all around the world. Sorry? Yeah. So you can see this is very interesting. So afterwards, we have the first codices. I wanted to show you how we can try to find the music of Saint John of Damascus. Now we are going to make this inquiry. We saw that from the time of Saint John of Damascus, maybe we have some hook-shaped signs, but only one document has been found. We have some strokes, but very few documents have been found. So we want to see how the golden canon sounded, how the Anixotostomamus sounded. So in order to find out these things, we have to look at the first hymnologia. This is the oldest one. It's preserved in St. Petersburg. It's a fragment, and you can see something which is very characteristic here is that we have still nomina sacra, Kyrios or Theos, not written out in full, because it is a stenographic notation and we have syllables without signs at all on it. So this is archaic notation, Palo-Byzantine. But here already we can make investigation to find the music of Saint John of Damascus. And then the dated manuscripts, you can scroll through, you have this, it's a manual of paleography, you can scroll through all this. So the idea is that we can find works of Saint John of Damascus in the oldest hymnologia. But they are adiastematic. It means that they don't show us exactly the intervals. In order to come and to sing something by Saint John of Damascus, at least that text, and with the music as far as we can, we have to go to the so-called Middle Byzantine notation. And this is what I want to show you now. But before that, we should make a small excursus to see how the Holy Church honors the memory of Saint John of Damascus. We had a homework with the students of the master class, and we had to find, because we were reading the life of Saint Romanos the Melodist from the Vaticanus Grecus 1613, we wanted to find about Saint John of Damascus. And one of the students found out, and guess how he could find it? Do you recognize something here? Oh no, could you please put the... Do you recognize something here? Oh, yes, it's in the dining room, exactly. It's taken from here. It's taken from the Vaticanus Grecus 1613. What's the date where Saint John of Damascus has his memory day, please? 4th of December, but look at this. This is not 4th of December. This is Minito Afto, it is Minino Embryo. Minito Afto Kappa Theta. Kappa Theta means 29. So this is interesting to investigate the old celebrating date, 29th of November. It would be nice to find out since when he celebrated on the 4th of December. Some of the students had the idea, let's see whether Saint Barbara is celebrated on the 4th, and she is in this manuscript. So their wish is that tonight we shall study the life of Saint Barbara from this manuscript. So you see, you can discover very beautiful things in the manuscripts. This is the cave where Saint John of Damascus lived and wrote his famous canons. A priest from Thessaloniki told me this cave you hardly can enter and sit. So there were big assets. And here is Marsaba, the famous monastery of Saint Saba Yasmenus, the holy Saint Saba, in the desert of Judea. Here we had, during the 8th century, a big musical academy, to put it like that, with the most famous poets and musicians. So the church praises him as hymnographon pritanin. He is the dean of the hymnographers. Τον εμπλέον απάσης γενόμενον θείας και κοσμικής σοφίας. He was full of the divine, but also of the other science of his time. Τον David μιμούμενος. He was imitating, and this word mimesis is very important in the Byzantine tradition. It's just following and doing obedience to the prototypes of the holy men. Don David Mimomenos, the one who imitated David, the prophet, the one who was singing together with the angels and imitating the angels. The one who is compared to different musical instruments, thea lyra, kinira παναρμόνιος, μουσικότα των όργανων, εμπνεόμενο του παρακλήτου τεσαύρες. It's wonderful texts written, the canon and parts of the service are written by his nephew, Saint Stephanos Savaitis, who also was an important poet. So we have the most wonderful hymnography praising Saint John of Damascus. And here he says, καθάρας παντός μολυσμού το σώμα και ψυχήν και το νουν, εμελός Θεός σοφέ έγλην υπεδέξω την τρισίλιον. After purifying your body and your soul and your mind from each sin or from each spoil, you could receive the ray of the Holy Trinity, emelos, in a musical form. This is so beautiful, the inspiration in a musical form. So another philosopher gets inspiration in its philosophic form, or a physician in its medical form. So Saint John got the inspiration in a musical form. And here also it says about the divine inspiration. And here, τη σοφία στο τάλαντον δεδεγμένος πράξεσι κατακοσμήσα ήδη με Ιωάννη την Εκκλησία του Χριστού, ο πολυπλασιάζεις και των βίων λοιπόν. So as long as you were on the earth, you multiplied, you augmented your talent given by God, like the coin, you know, this pericope where you have one coin and you bring other, you have 5 and you bring other 5. He says, you, John, even going to the other world, you just continue to multiply your talent. So this means that to be a singer, dear students, is something forever. We begin here and we can multiply the talents in the ages of the ages. It's something wonderful. As the psalmodist says, ψαλώ το Θεό μου έως υπάρχω. A singer of Thessaloniki told me, do you know, Maria, what this means? Ψαλώ το Θεό μου έως υπάρχω. In the ages of the ages, ever. Έως υπάρχω, as long as I exist. So I exist forever. So it is forever. It's wonderful. It's an impressive perspective given to the church singers here. So, Saint John of Damascus, or some other one, it's not for sure, it's Ioannou του Αρκλά, in those beautiful canons of Christmas, he tells us also something of the art of composing. Ύμνους υφαίνειν συν τόνος τεθυγμένος εργόδες εστίν. It's difficult to compose hymns which fit isosyllabically and homotonically to the models. Αλλά και μήτερ σθένος ως υπέφηκεν η προαίρεσης δίδ. But, O Mother of God, give us the strength to the measure of our desire to do so. This is very beautiful, and it has this important word of ύμνους υφαίνε, this μουσική υφή, its musical texture is like waving, or weaving it is, I think, weaving. And then there is something else very beautiful in the canon of Theophania, for Theophany, again ascribed to Saint John of Damascus or Saint John Arclas. Αγαλιόμεν και πλατίνομεν στόμα λόγω πλέκοντες εκ λόγων μελωδίαν. Look at this, it's so beautiful. We sing to thee, since we have escaped to the evil who persecutes us, we sing a song of praise, just putting together the words with the melody and singing to the logos. So it's logos once with L, and then it's logos with a capital and then with minuscule. So we take part in the divine word with our words and give thanks to the Lord, ho ton prosimas idete dorimaton, who finds it beautiful, who is joyful. Christ is joyful to receive our hymns. So it's very beautiful because in these hymns you can find the theology of psaltic art just in 2 or 3 verses. It's condensed and it's very, very beautiful. But let's see how we can approach the music of Saint John of Damascus. He has written the Irmi, the model strophes, for the canon of the Akathistos, as you know. The other troparia are by Saint Joseph, the hymnographer, but the Irmi, the model strophes, are by Saint John of Damascus. So it is Ichos. Can you find out which Ichos is here? Οδή πρώτη, ετέρα ακολουθία εις την υπεραγίαν Θεοτόκον, οδή πρώτη, ήχος τέταρτος. Very nice. So it is τέταρτος. Today it is λέγετος, but let's say τέταρτος here. So I will sing for you just at the beginning that you can see how it is written. This is a manuscript of the 13th century. It has the oldest layers of the melody. It's the closest we can go today to the melody, the original melody of Saint John of Damascus. So we have, oh, yeah. If you want, you can try to sing together with me. Just do what you know from the signs today. Ανοίξω το στόμα μου και πληρωθήσετε πνεύματος και λόγων ερεύξω τη βάση. Sorry, I was τος και λόγων ερεύξω με τη και οφθεί και οφθήσομαι Φεδρός πανηγυρίζω και ασογητωμένος ταύτης τα θαύματα. So we are not sure, thank you for Isocrates, we are not sure that it was like this. It is just the main pillars of what is written down here. I did a rhythmical interpretation according to the studies of Ioannis Arvanitis and of other scholars like Simon Taras, Ewald Jammers, Jan van Biesen, Irina and Marina Shkolnik. The old notation is stenographic. What I just chanted here might be only the skeleton. We are not sure. Some people believe that it was like this. But let's sing now with the dear students, Anikso to stoma mu, as it is in the newer tradition. Here you can see on the left side an autograph by Petros Vizantios from the year 1815. It is in Legetos, so let's try to see. Legetos, you can keep Isocratema. Ανοίξω το στόμα μου και πληρωθήσετε πνεύματος και λόγων ερεύσω με τη Βασιλή Δημήτρη και Φέντρος πανηγυρίζων και ως ογηθούμενος ταύτης τα θαύματα. Thank you so much. So this is the melody we have today. And you can see it goes back at least to Petros Vyzantios, maybe also older. So this now, in this case, the poem is by Saint Ioannis of Damascus, and the melody is by a more recent composer. So you can see this beautiful high spirits, how they communicate to each other through the centuries. And we have the old text and new melodies. We have old melodies. In musicology, we try to make sense of the old manuscripts and to see how maybe the music was at the beginning or very close to the period where the saints lived. But let's go now to Saint John Koukouzelis to present also this so important personality. In fact, Saint John Koukouzelis is acknowledged to have been the most important composer of Byzantine chant ever. And again, deep devoter of the Holy Mother of God. Here you see his icon, Panagia Koukouzelissa. Saint John Koukouzelis is a person for whom many books have been written, and they are on the flow. Also, many research is conducted by far, however, by far it's not enough. Just imagine that of its huge work, maybe 1% is published. All the other things is in the manuscripts. Here we have a card which is for the students of the third year. So please, dear students, if you want to look at this, it's a flashcard. So we have Saint John Koukouzelis as a maester. He was a director of the school of chanters in the palace, in the imperial palace, in the churches there. And here we have the first dated Papadiki, the manuscript of the type of Papadiki, where his name is mentioned. And here is Megisti Lavra on the Holy Mountain, where he was a monk. Here is also the flashcard. We are going to look at it carefully with the students. He was born in Dyrrhachion. It's today in Albania, but it was at that time a part of the Byzantine Empire. And then he was an orphan of his father. He was called also Papadopoulos in the manuscripts. His father must have been a priest. And then as an orphan child, very talented as he was brought to Constantinople, and he was educated in maybe at the orphanage in St. Paul, where these children got a very high music education. He was called Angelophonos, the one with a voice like an angel, and he became, as we saw before, maester, the director of the music school in the palace, we could say today. But he loved monastic life, and then he went to the Holy Mountain. Maybe you know the history of his life, that he went with the sheep, and he was using to sing, thinking that he's alone and nobody can hear him, but he was heard by a hermit. And then the hermit went to the abbot and said, "Do you know to whom we have here just looking for our sheep? He ought to be the protopsaltis." And then the igumenos called him and asked him, "Who are you, in fact?" And Saint John Koukouzelis said, "I will tell you, but I beg you, let me live here." And he said, "I'm John Koukouzelis," because in the meantime, the emperor was looking to bring him back on the Holy Mountain. So he stayed there. This icon with singing and damaging the wild deers and so on is something which we know also from antiquity with Orpheus. And also here you see it, a very beautiful miniature from a manuscript of the Macedonian Renaissance with David. David as the one who brings everybody in harmony with the sounds of his lyre. Here is a fragment of his life, and it says that in one of the nights, it is beautiful. It was the night of the Akathistos, the fifth Saturday, Friday to Saturday night, the fifth Saturday in Great Lent, where it's the Saturday of the Akathistos. And he slept. He had sung the Akoluthia, and he felt asleep on the, he was standing, and then he saw Hyperachia Theotokos giving him a coin. And then all of a sudden he woke up and he saw the coin in his hand. This is related here. So he is in the church. He fell asleep. He sees Panagia giving him the golden coin. And Panagia told him, Psaleme και ου μη σε εγκαταλείπω. Sing for me, and I will never leave you alone. Here you can see manuscripts where we can follow up the dates where St. John Koukouzelis lived. This is a manuscript. Please try to help me here. Is this correct? It's the date. You know, they date since από την δημιουργία του κόσμου, since the creation of Adam. And some newer researcher made here subtraction. Is this correct? 6,810 since the creation of the world. He put it here minus 5,508 is the date which we know from the fathers that the world was created. Is this correct? It is 1312. Dio. So he did an error here, so don't believe him. Yes, it's 1302. So this is the first chronology of St. John Koukouzelis. And then we have another one with Amin, Amin, Amin. And here we have again a date which is 13:8 or 13:9. These are hymnologia. And then here we have something which some musicologists believe is the signature. It is here Ioannou Papadopoulou to Koukouzeli. So this was his after-name, Papadopoulos. He was the son of a priest. And this is 1308. And then we have the famous inscription in the earliest dated Papadiki, Ακολουθίε συντεθειμένε παρά του μαΐστορος Ιωάννου του Κoukouzeli. St. John Koukouzelis is the first one to compile this new book at that time, Papadiki. We have Genos Papadikon, Papadika, Papadic melodies, long melodies. So he is the father of this collection, St. John Koukouzelis. And here we have also a date which is 1340 or 41, where Koukouzelis is mentioned as to Pale Koukouzeli. So it means that he had already passed away. So we know that these are the dates beginning from the beginning of the 14th century until before 1340. So this is early Paleologian period. Professor Stathis concludes that if he signs an Irmologion in 1302, he must have been at least 30 years old, because it's impossible to compile an Irmologion in a very early age. So it needs some authority. So the dates might be 1270 until 1340. And here you can see him together with his teacher, Ioannis Glikis, St. John Koukouzelis, and Xenos Koronis. This is a very famous, it's a copy of a very famous miniature, which shows also the hieronymy of Oxia and of Ison. This was Ison, they did this shape, and then Oxia was like this. They had different signs for the hands to show the different signs. And here it is St. John Koukouzelis as a maistor. This is a very important manuscript of the 15th century, which has portraits both of St. John Koukouzelis and of his master, Ioannis Glikis. So this is before he became a monk. It was this characteristic garment they had, and these hats. These hats, they wear it, it's called skiadion. They went in procession with this. It was very practical because it was also a protection against the sun or maybe the rain. So you can easily recognize chanters in the paintings with these hats. Sometimes they have also the scaranic on another one, white, but by the signs of their hands, these hieronomical signs. He lived in the time of Andronicus II, who was a great Messena. He was a promoter of the arts. And here you can see some holy fathers of his period. He was roughly contemporary with Saint Gregory of Sinai and also with Saint Gregorius Palamas. He was a hesychast. He was a musician hesychast. And as Professor Evans told so beautifully, he combined the excellence with humility. He knew how to combine those two things. So we have the expression of hesychasm in music. It's Alexander Lingas, who has a very beautiful article on psalmody and hesychasm. And he tells also about these other holy fathers. Saint John of Koukouzelis wrote many musical theoretical supports. The most famous is the Trochos and Megaison, but also many others. And in fact, he was honored with names like o Didaskalos ton Didaskalon, o Maistor ton Maistoron, being the most appreciated musician. Here you can see the Megaison with the formulas, how they pass through the modes. Here is the oldest dated copy of the Trochos, of the wheel. And as we saw also with the students, there is a very beautiful connection between the number 8 here, like it's like a star with 8 rays, and between the light showing Christ in the Transfiguration, but also in Christos and Dox in the Majestas Domini. It is again the 8, you can see the light as an 8. This 8, the octagon, the number 8, the shape of 8 in the octagon are symbolics for our Lord Jesus Christ. And there is a strong connection between light and sound. There is a beautiful article by the late Aligizakis, professor from Thessaloniki, Logos, Ichos ke phos, Ichos ke phos it is, Ichos ke phos. Hijos que fos. So here you can see again St. John Koukouzelis is the manuscript with the miniature we saw before. And these are the famous methods of callophonia and so on written by St. John Koukouzelis. They still wait to be explored in detail by the musicologists. And here you can see this wonderful copy of the wheel together with the seraphs all around. This is a very beautiful document combining the theory of Byzantine chant with theology. It shows it's the music of the angels. Saint John Koukouzelis wrote the melodies both for Vespers and for Orthros, for Matins, and for the Divine Liturgy. He wrote many mathemata. He wrote also, he put it to music also some of the Iki of the Akathistos. And his most famous piece is Anopheni Prophete, when the Archbishop puts the garments before the Divine Liturgy. And many kratimata, almost 100. Here you can see a beautiful miniature where St. John Koukouzelis holds the Anopheni Prophete in the mode varis. Here you can see a manuscript just from the date of the fall of Constantinople, 1453, with this famous Theotokion. It's very interesting. Here you can see, this is what I wanted also to show you in the classes. This is scales in the form of canon from the 17th century. So you can see they were using this. I choose it here for the Ichos Varis because it shows the intervals. And now we prepared something with your students for Saint Demetrius. Saint Demetrius, the protector of the Symvasilevousa polis, the co-capital of the Byzantine Empire, the protector of Thessaloniki. Here you can see it is Frurison Panefime. This is a very precious manuscript. This is a mathematarion kept now in the island of Corfu, which was the Forlage, which was the, we say, Amphivolon, the book Hormosius had in front when making the slow exegesis of the mathematarion. It's very, very precious manuscript. Here you can see it from a manuscript Frurison Panefime of the 16th century from Onivlatadon in Thessaloniki. And here you can see the text. Originally it was by Anatolius, and Saint John Koukouzelis takes the end, Frurison Panefime, and creates a new composition on the old text. I show you just some parts of musicological work. What we are doing is to transcribe the notation of the old manuscript. Then we put it on staff notation. It's only structural notes. This is why we don't have it. And we recognize the formulas. Paraklitikia, Navasis, Katalixime, Varia, Oxy, and so on. We can name everything according to the old treatises. And then we look at the music rhetorical devices. So this is musicological work we are doing with these pieces. We have an ambitus in the old notation, which is slowly above an octave. And here you can see the basic structure. And something which is very beautiful is that here at this point, we have the climax of the piece. And look at this. The climax many times in Byzantine chant is put like in the sectio aurea. This is very beautiful. You know the sectio aurea, this famous ratio we have also everywhere in nature. It occurs also in the piece of Saint John Koukouzelis. And here is the slow exegesis. This is a score prepared by the late Lycurgos Angelopoulos for the famous Greek Byzantine choir. And here you can see the old notation, and here you can see the new one. You can see again what we are doing as musicologists with these pieces, and now we are going to sing the beginning only, because this is a very long piece. It is about 20 minutes. But please feel free to join in and to make Socratima maybe. It is Plagios του Δευτέρου. Please change so that we can see. So this is just a taste because we have to work it maybe one day in its entirety. Thank you so much, dear students. It was really great, wonderful. Look at this beautiful troparion in honor of St. John Koukouzelis, Musikis την ακρότητα Φιλοπόνος κατέλαβες. You reached the zenith of music art. Και το ταύτης χρήσιμον εθισάβρισες. And you took everything which is good and which is helpful and beneficial. Επιστημόνος, ως μέλισσα. In a scientific way, maybe we could translate like the melissa, like the bee. So he refers here to say the Saint Basil, the great, saying about the bee. Εις δόξαν Θεού ημών, to do panagathon, for the glory of God, from which we have all the good things. This anthropis de dorite, to the achriston katalelipas. And you left aside the thing which is useless in the music. You left it aside. Όντως ως εχέφρον, truly as a man who has a sound spirit. Εν κοσμούμενος της τρόπης δικαιοσύνης μακάρι. Since you wear the garment of the righteousness with your way of being, to put it like that, oh, holy Saint John Koukouzelis. So now at the end, I would like the students from the third year to come to help that we sing in the Octoichos. We will finish with Octoichos with Theos Kyrios Epephanen Imin. We try to do it in 8 different languages. Please feel free to join in and to help us. Yes, everybody. We will start with the small wheels of St. John Koukouzelis again. These are, again, very beautiful exercises for voice training. These are the small wheels or canonia of the 8 modes. The left one is diatonic, the right one is chromatic. So let's sing it, and please, dear students, comment. We just try to be joyful together by singing. This is Pananes, so Ananes, Neanes, Nanaya, Anes, Neanes, Aneanes, Neaya, Neanes, Nenano, Neanes, Nenano, Neanes, Nenano, Neanes, Nenano, Neanes. These are very beautiful exercises also for warming up and so on. So please, dear students, take it for you and do something beautiful with it. So now we are going to pass through the modes with Theos Kyrios και Epephanen Imin from the Anastasimatarion of Petros Peloponnesios and Ioannis Protopsaltis. And by changing the mode, we will change also the language. You will see what it is. So please feel to join in. Theos Kyrios και Epephanen Imin, О Господи, явися нам, Благословен гради во имя Господь. Amen. Dumnezeu este Domnul și s-a arătat nouă. Bine este cuvântat cel ce vine într-un nume de Domnul. Sorry, here it is. Something went wrong. God is the Lord and hath appeared unto us. Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Amen. Dieu est le Seigneur, béni soit celui dans le nom du Seigneur. Gott ist der Herr und er ist unser Schild. Gebenedeit sei der da kommet im Namen des Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this music excursion from Saint Romanos the Melodist and Saint John of Damascus to the New York Times through Saint John Koukouzelis. This is such a wonderful tradition which many people share in the world. Many things are to be done also from a musicological point of view and also from a psaltic point of view. In fact, we have to practice during our entire life. It's very important to give this tradition as early as we can to the children so that they can grow up in this wonderful tradition with these beautiful sonorities. Thank you, dear students, for this wonderful singing. And it's a great joy to study together and to be happy about small progresses, hopefully each day a bit.
Professor Alexandru, we take a few minutes for some questions.
Yes, of course. So if there are questions, please, here I am.
Any question, comment?
Yes.
It's not a question. I just want to know if you have visited in Athens a small museum called Kochanas Museum, because there is in the 3rd floor, there are many ancient instruments and a simulation of the first song that we can hear from the 1st century BC.
Ah, very nice.
It's in the center of Athens.
Yes.
Kochanas Museum.
Oh, thank you so much. Very, very nice. There is also in Thessaloniki in the Museum of the Ancient, the Archaeological Museum. Yes, we have also, this is ancient Greek music. Ancient Greek music, and they try to recover it. But also, as in the case of Byzantine chant, do not know whether they wrote the entire music. Most probably not. We have very strong oral tradition, and they write then the essential sounds there, and everything else has to be supplied by the oral tradition. Yes. So you see, this octoichos is something very, very beautiful, so important because it was Saint John of Damascus who was systematikos nous. He was the great systematizer also in the field of theology. And he did also put together all the 8 modes. He did not invent them. They are much older and they have their roots in ancient Greek music. But from the many scales possible to be used, a selection has been done with those which are most suitable for the soul and for the divine worship. And this wheel of the 8 modes, as Professor Athanasius Vourlis, late Professor Athanasius Vourlis from Athens University said, this trochos just moves since the 8th century and will move until the eschaton. It's every week we have the new mode and so on, 1 to 8, and then again 1 to 8, and so on. And the number 8, of course, is the symbol of our Lord Jesus Christ. So it is so beautiful, very strong. Music is so deep involved into the organization of the entire ecclesiastical year and the hymnography and so on. Yes. Yes, Father.
Μια απλή ερώτηση.
Ναι.
Μήπως έχετε μια ιδέα γιατί χρησιμοποιούσαν πάντα όλοι οι παλιοί δάσκαλοι, οι μάστορες, τροχός.
Ναι, γιατί...
Όχι οκτάγωνο ή ξέρω εγώ τετράγωνο.
Γιατί είναι τροχός.
Γιατί είναι τροχός, γιατί είναι κύκλο δηλαδή.
He asks, the bishop asks, why it is τροχός, why is it a wheel? I think it is a wheel for many reasons. Professor Kaldeakis wrote a very beautiful article about the wheel, symbolism of wheel in different cultures. Is the one who also symbolizes eternity because it moves all around and it never finishes. But there is also, you know, the wheels in the vision of Hezekiah in the Old Testament. We have the wheels, some angels, and the throne, Hezekiah, yes. It is the movement of the divine, yeah. Angels like trochi with eyes all around. So I think this is also important for the discussion. You saw the trochos of Saint John Koukouzelis with the seraphims. It's so beautiful, the most beautiful copy of expression, I mean iconographical expression of the trochos with the angels. The music of the angels, it's asma kenon. Many holy fathers say this. It's the new chant. Asma kenon appears also as an expression in the Psalms and then the Apocalypse and in the writings of the Holy Fathers concerning the ecclesiastical music. Saint Porphyrius says that everybody should learn this music. It's so helpful for the soul. It just pushes away any sort of depression. As he says, as soon as you feel something like, you know, a blurring and so on, just say a troparion, and then you will see that you will be happy again. Because it's a great problem for contemporary society. Many young people suffer of depression. So it is wonderful to bring this wonderful music closer to the hearts of the congregation and of everybody, and the children, very important, so that they get imbued in this, because you see it's a very complex tradition. It has very beautiful and subtle sonorities, and the kids can take it just directly in the early years of their life. Yes.
If you don't have a question, I will ask. Το χειρόγραφο πάπυρο στο Βερλίνο που υπάρχει, αυτό που είπατε, είναι από το 8ο αιώνα, είπατε εσείς.
Του οξυρίγχου, το παλιότερο, είναι το δεύτερο μισό του τρίτου αιώνα. The time of Saint Anthony the Great. Ναι, ναι. Άλλος πάπυρος είναι μεταγενέστερος. The earliest document of written music of Christianity is the Papyrus Oxyrhynchus, 1786. This is not the date, this is the number of the papyrus. The date is second half of the 3rd century, time of Saint Anthony the Great, and has been found in Oxyrhynchos. It is close to the Nile in Africa. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry? The hymn? It's a fragment of a hymn to the Holy Trinity. If you want, we can look. Α, της Θεοτόκου, το παλαιότερο. Ο Ξύριχος is Αγία Τριάδα. Αγία Τριάδα. I can show it to you. If you want, we can look at it closer. If there is no other question, I can show to you a beautiful, just a moment, please. Because every history of music, of European music uses to start with this papyrus of Oxyrhynchos. You got this document I'm going to share with you right now. I mean, the students. So I will show you a very short document, αναζητώντας τις απαρχές της Βυζαντινής μουσικής, searching for the beginnings of Byzantine chant. You see in the background the pyramids. So here is the Nile, the pyramids, the famous portraits of Fayum, one of the roots of Byzantine icon painting also. And you can see Oxyrhynchos here. At that time, we had some very great saints in the region, Saint Antonius the Great, Saint Paul of Thebes, Saint Pachomius, Saint Macarius the Great, Saint Onufrios, and of course, Megas Athanasius, Saint Athanasius the Great. And here you can see, if you are interested, you can also read beautiful things about papyrology in the Oxford Handbook. You can find many beautiful things in these sites about the excavations done at the beginning of the 20th century in that zone. And here you can see the papyrus. It's only a fragment. It is kept in Oxford today. And here, maybe I should make some zoom so that you can see it better. The style of the music is the ancient Greek music. Is it better now? Maybe you can close a bit the light so that we can see. Yes. So what you can see here is the text, utan, io. This is the famous word sigato, let be silent. This is the, like sigisato pasa sarx vrotia. Let everything be silent when we worship the Holy Trinity. And then here you can see, above you see some letters and some strokes. This is the ancient Greek notation. And then here, we have the famous refrain, let be everything, everybody silent when we worship Patera, Hion, Haion, Pneuma. This is the Holy Trinity with He in between. You know, this He is the aspiration of Ke. It's Kai and the Alpha Iota falls, and then it's Kappa with Haion, Haion. So we have the three persons of the Holy Trinity with K in between, which means omotima. It's very important also for the dogma and against the pneumatomachs. And it's before the second ecumenical synod. So this is a very, very important piece of music. And if you want, look, this is sigato. The main word here, I mean, lexically the key word. And here above you can see the ancient Greek music notation. It was using the alphabet, but with some letters also in different positions, or sometimes also like in the mirror. And this stroke here showed long syllables. And then we can begin to sing it. The places which are missing have been reconstructed according to a similar poem by Saint Synesius of Cyrene. He was an important poet of that time. and it is in anapestic meter. And here you can see the scale. I can sing to you a bit the beginning. The point is that we don't know how it sounded. This is the scale. It's in the Hypolydian tone. And here you can see the rhythmical signs, macronidissimi, lima for pause, and some other to ifen and so on. And then here you can see the scale. Usually we sing the scales in the descendant movement. So we can put it like this. I just sing it and you can join if you want. The scale in descendant movement. Here we do not know exactly what happened because it's a lacuna. It's the gap in the manuscript, but the text is reconstructed according to Saint Synesius of Cyrene. So we can begin just to recite the text. Se pater cosmon pater eonon me pomen nomu passe de theu loimi dule osa cosmos echi ligi deliton utan dilan utanio. Now the signs begin to appear, so we can figure out some kind of music, maybe only the structural notes. Here is the famous Sigatu again a lacuna with the text reconstructed. Apoli pondon ripenion pie potamoron passe hymnum dondimon paterachion haion pneuma. This is the famous refrain. I mean the famous verse. We know that it's a Christian hymn. And it goes like this. Passe dinamis epiphonundon amin, amin, kratos enos aike, doxa Theo, doterimono, pandon agathon, amen, amen. And it ends like this. This is a fragment, the oldest document of Christian music as preserved. Some colleague of us, Mrs. Afinaka Tsenevaki, tried to put some ornaments in this kind of music, ornaments found in the folk music in Pindos region. The Pindos region has a very old musical tradition, and then it sounds much more beautiful, but she did not try to put it on this Christian hymn. So it might have been different, but this is what is written here. So, dear students, fathers, thank you so much for this. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Ήτανε πάρα πολύ όμορφα. Εγώ μπερδεύτηκα με το απήχημα, αλλά δεν πειράζει. Ναι, μπερδεύτηκα με το απήχημα επειδή εκείνο θέλει νεχαία, ναι, δεν θέλει νέα, ναι. Και μου ήρθε όλο το απήχημα το άλλο από τον Άγιο Koukouzelis.